Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Silicon Labs product podcast. We're joined again with Parker Dorris. This is our second episode to talk about really the latest with Bluetooth Express. Thanks, Parker, for joining us.
Sure, no problem.
So we had just talked about what was new with the latest update, the Long Range PHY, how people can get those updates, the benefits of it. And so review our last podcast if you're interested in some of the updates that were in the latest release. However, I think now, Parker, why don't you talk to us about what Silicon Labs has learned in the first 6 months of this product launch, and if there's anything that customers should be aware of, from what we've learned or from what we've done with the product so far.
Sure. Well, I think one of the biggest things we've learned in terms of where Bluetooth Express kind of plays well in the market and where we're seeing success is that it's an extremely broad set of use cases that Bluetooth Express is finding sockets in. The theme that we are seeing with opportunities with Bluetooth Express is that there are a lot of customers that have great products, have differentiated products that need to add Bluetooth to the product, and they need to find the path of least resistance to adding Bluetooth, and that's Bluetooth Express. We have a lot of long-standing relationships with different customers around the world, and we have been successful in promoting the BG and BGM, the programmable SoCs and modules that we offer today. And it definitely seems like the field is able to kind of fold the BGX, the Bluetooth Express, into that same story. And they're finding a lot of customers out there that really, as they say, just kind of need Bluetooth that just works. And that's what Bluetooth Express is. So we're seeing quite a bit of traction with both the BGX13P, that's the PCB module, and the SIP, the BGX13S. I don't think I know the exact statistics, but I know that we're seeing a lot of use cases where I think that the BGX13P tends to be chosen by customers that they're not facing a lot of size constraints in their applications, and they want the easiest to solder solution. But we're seeing a lot of interest in the BGX13S, where there are smaller products that are size constrained, that have board size constraints, and the BGX13S really hits a sweet spot, especially with its internal antenna, where customers can just shrink down their products to something that is has an attractive form factor and does a lot with very little board. So that's kind of what we're seeing today with Bluetooth Express, and I'm hopeful that the first firmware update that adds in the Long Range PHY will give us the ability to reach out into even more opportunities that are BGX to BGX opportunities that are kind of the classic serial cable replacement opportunities. The way I look at the BGX to BGX use case is that it's kind of serial cable replacement plus, because it makes it really easy to also connect to phones. So and that's something you wouldn't necessarily find in other kinds of wireless cable replacement solutions on the market, where you kind of have a one-to-one connection across a wireless link, but there's no options to also add in a phone app or something like that. We've seen applications where you kind of need both. And so I think that the Long Range PHY kind of strengthens the BGX to BGX use case. So I'm really excited to see how that plays in the field. We've also, seen some support issues over the last 6 months. Thankfully, they've all been fairly easy to address issues, and the engineering team in Austin has done a fantastic job of keeping docs.scilabs.com up to date with all of the latest information that we can provide to customers. So I think that when I look at the tickets that have come in, well over half of them honestly are related to connectivity to Android phones. And there's a few things that have happened there. With older Android phones, they don't support the LE secure connections that came with, I believe it was BLE 4.2, that version of the spec. And this is kind of an issue with Bluetooth Express because by default, the default configuration for Bluetooth Express requires secure connections. Fortunately, that's just that's a setting that can be changed inside Bluetooth Express. So you specifically the variable that you would change is BLEP. Set that to any instead of secure, and then those all those problems go away, and you can connect to any older Android phone that may not support LE secure connections. The other portion of Android connectivity issues were really related to the phone side of things. We saw that some customers with older Android phones were not able to use BGX Commander to connect to Bluetooth Express products. This necessitated some updates and changes to the way that the Express framework interacts with low-level, core Bluetooth APIs. Remember, the Express framework is an open source library for iOS and Android that's available on GitHub. That it's meant to kind of abstract away all the complexity that comes from adding Bluetooth connectivity to mobile apps. So we've updated the framework on GitHub. We've actually added some key features to the framework as well. As part of that, we've noticed a few customers that have asked to through the framework connect to multiple Bluetooth Express products at once, and so we've added multi-connect functionality as well. So that update happened at the same time as the Long Range PHY update, and I know that is going to address a couple of customer issues that we saw. So those are the main things. Of course, we've gotten a few customer requests for features that Bluetooth Express currently does not support, and we're being really diligent about capturing each of those requests and logging them and kind of keeping a tally of who's asking for what, because we have the luxury of adding new features fairly easily to this product without updating OPNs, without changing a lot in the sort of manufacturing flow. And so we're tracking these features, and we definitely have a roadmap for additional functionality we're going to add into Bluetooth Express over time. So I would encourage anyone in the field that sees the need for something that Bluetooth Express currently does not do to definitely reach out to factory and let us know about it, be as vocal as possible. So that's kind of what we've been seeing kind of in terms of support issues. I think there is one other issue that we saw that frankly, of everything that happened, this one caught us off guard. The Bluetooth Express evaluation board that is sold through disties and through us. There was a manufacturing problem with those boards, and a number of those boards did not get a custom programming step executed on them that will make the USB to UART bridge controller recognizable by Simplicity Studio as a BGX evaluation board. And the result of this is that the Express configurator app that's inside Simplicity Studio wasn't properly recognizing those boards. So we've addressed that issue in manufacturing, so that's fixed now. I believe we did a board recall with our distributors to try to fix all of the problem boards. We've also included a step-by-step guide to fix any boards that might have actually escaped, that had already been sold through disties. That's available on docs.silabs.com. So that's a fairly contained issue now, and it doesn't sound like it's an issue that will happen again. But that's one thing we saw that, as I said, kind of caught us off guard when we started getting a few tickets that said they were having issues connecting to Studio, because that's, in general, a very straightforward, kind of pain-free process. You just plug in a board, and it detects the board and offers up Express Configurator, and you're good to go. And so we're kind of back to that status now.
Okay.
And that's kind of the high and lows.
What about so when we talked 6 months ago, we went through the BGX to BGX and the BGX to phone examples, and I thought those were really helpful for, as you mentioned, I mean, these people are getting the boards, they're evaluating them. Those were really quick examples. Have you guys made updates or anything with those examples that maybe have introduced some of these new features?
Yeah, so I think in the last podcast I briefly mentioned that there's now a BGX to BGX application example on docs.scilabs.com, and so we could just drill into that for a second. This was really an example that we created to highlight as many of the new features in the 1.1 firmware update as possible. And so it's the sort of the story of the example is that you can get two EFM8 UB1 microcontrollers. There's one firmware image that you can program into those two boards, and basically when you run that code, it asks you whether you want the board to be a light switch or a light. So on one board choose light switch, on the other board choose light. That's kind of the setup of the example. At that point, the one that you've chosen to be light switch starts scanning over the long range PHY, and you can the documentation in docs.scilabs.com kind of goes over how that works. But it's scanning over long range PHY, and it can connect to the light board, and then the color and on-off setting of the light can be adjusted through the joystick that's on the UB1. But at the same time, on the light side, that code is advertising using the multi-set advertising feature. So a long-range PHY connection can be established, but also a phone connection can be established. So you can use this demo, run the light mode, and then go, for instance, to BGX Commander on your mobile app and connect to that same board and issue the same exact commands to adjust color and turn on and off the LED that's on the UB1. And so that's kind of the key functionality that's exercised in that demo. And we also exercise some of the pairing and bonding controls that we've added to Bluetooth Express. Specifically, we have a system in place where the first time you connect, when keys are exchanged during the pairing process, a user has to hold down a button on the UB1 in order for pairing to happen. So this is what you see in a lot of BLE applications in the market, where there's kind of a press to pair functionality at the beginning of the establishment of a connection. And so that's a feature that we've added into that code example just to show one way that it can be exercised. We already, a long time ago, we released a BGX to phone example, but we have added features to that also make that really compelling. Just to mention that really quickly, the BGX to phone example uses an EFM8 SB1 as an embedded temperature sensor. We chose SB1 because, as probably a lot of the listeners know, SB1 has amazing low power performance. It has a sleep mode that can run down to 40 nanoamps. And we chose that as the embedded host because we wanted to show how easy it is to create a low power application with Bluetooth Express. So there's a really great state machine that kind of outlines in the documentation that outlines how we are changing a few different modes inside Bluetooth Express to keep everything at kind of lowest power possible while still maintaining a connection, while still advertising properly. It shows this sort of relationship that you can establish between an embedded host and Bluetooth Express, where, for instance, you can put the embedded host into its lowest power state while the BGX is advertising, and the BGX will signal to the embedded host to wake up once a connection is established. And that's functionality that can be really difficult. It's kind of the classic functionality where it's really easy to get to that 80% point for kind of good for a demo or proof of concept, and not necessarily as easy to get that last 20% to a productized solution. So we're trying to show how Bluetooth Express makes it really easy to bridge that last 20%. And so those are the two examples, and those combined really kind of give a pretty comprehensive view of all that the Bluetooth Express product is capable of. So I would definitely encourage everyone to visit those examples and take a look at the source code that's on GitHub and try the examples out for yourselves.
Perfect. So it's GitHub. There's probably a link on docs.scilabs.com. Is it also in
That's right.
Simplicity Studio, so that it's really those three locations, or do they load the projects from GitHub to Simplicity Studio?
So these are projects that exist on GitHub only, but there are SLS proj files that are part of the code examples, so that can be easily imported into Simplicity Studio. So you would just
Perfect.
Clone the repo and then import the project, and you're good to go.
Well, Parker, that's a lot of new stuff. It sounds like it's been exciting the last 6 months. Hopefully, with this update, either the customers or our team will see this and go further with Bluetooth Express. Keep introducing it to new opportunities and new projects. So thanks for taking the time. I'm sure there's more we can talk about. Maybe we should schedule something out for a few months, and we'll have more success to talk about. But thanks.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks, Parker, and thank you, everyone, for listening to another podcast. And again, visit scilabs.com to get more information about the products we talked about today. Thank you very much.